Hey everybody from Music Direct and musicdirect.com on Facebook. It's Bess Navarra. Good to see you on this Wednesday in the Chicagoland area or wherever you may be in internet land. If you're joining us for the first time, nice to have you with us. If you're not familiar with Music Direct, think of us as your one-stop shop for everything audiophile. So when it comes to your favorite speakers, amplifiers, CD players, yeah, that's still a thing. Network audio players, streamers, cables, the whole shebang. You'll want to visit us at musicdirect.com or give our team a call here in the United States at 1-800 449 8333. If you're part of that social media crowd, which brought you here in the first place, if you'd like to find out more about Music Direct, we also invite you to sign up for our Music Direct Soundbites emailer. Gives you a chance to really enjoy all the good stuff that we have to offer, whether it's a special sale, pre-orders on latest and upcoming titles for your favorite fix on vinyl, and also from time to time programs like us, the Conversations from the Listening Room, in which we chat with some of our friends in the industry on what's going on during this unusual time. It's been started as a result of an article that my colleague Josh Bizarre wrote a while back, and those articles can be found on our website at musicdirect.com under our news section. You'll get to read stories about how he was handling time during this unusual time, this crisis as we call it, and continue to do so here in the U.S., but we also get to know about the music that he was enjoying, along with our own special writers, including myself. So please visit us at musicdirect.com. Socially, we're also available on Twitter and also on Instagram. So show us your picture of your favorite stereos or other good stuff. Communicate with our friends in that community. And more importantly, stay involved. That's what it takes to enjoy great music and good products from all of us here at Music Direct. Today, we're also joined by our friends over on the Focal Naim North America channel on Facebook. We're good to have you on board. If this is your first time checking this out, we appreciate you taking the time to be part of our day. Today's subject is all about loudspeakers and the brand Focal, which has had its 41st year of operation as a continuing brand and covering just pretty much everything in loudspeakers. But the technology deployed by this organization is one that has had everybody just jumping and asking for more every time a new model comes out. And here to help us talk us through this product line and also to tell us how he's doing these days is Chris Shaw. He joins us from nearby Calgary. And when I say Calgary, that's up there in Canada. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing very well, and how are you doing today, Bess?
I am doing extremely well. Obviously, you are up there. Things are a little bit different than they are down here. So I have to ask on a personal level, since you're in the most, I guess, northwesternmost part of Canada, how are the things there going for you on a personal level? And have you been able to coexist in that time?
Obviously, we've seen a lot of challenges worldwide. We've been very fortunate here that we really got a really good handle on things. On a personal level, obviously, because I used to do a lot of flying up till this came around. I'm going a little stir crazy, but I'm here. I'm doing good.
It's good. We can't have stir crazy. It'll ruin our careers. Uh,
Of course.
that would be a problem. So before we went on the air, I had a chance to sort of grasp who Chris Shaw is because we've only had the pleasure of working with you on a couple of occasions because of your post as product manager. You also have an extensive history in product training with us, and it's been great to learn about the craft, but not enough about Chris Shaw, the human being. And if I understand this correctly, you really basically got off the ground in learning about audio from an early age through, dare I say it, your mom and her car. Give us a little story on that.
Um, so yeah, you're correct. I've had a very long, I'll say a long career. Most of it has comprised of automotive audio. Since the early '90s. But I really, I guess I got my passion. And we were kind of chatting before, is that it was that mini truck driving by back in the '80s with the subwoofers, and that really stirred my passion. And so I was able to, at 14, 15, convince my mom that we should put a stereo into her. I think it was like a 1986 K car. And reluctantly she let me coax her that way. And really from there, that point on, it changed my life, changed, and gave me a career, really.
Of course, I can. When I think about a K car, my first reaction is, "You've pushed the front seats too far back, and my knees are up against my chest." Um, but I can only, on first glance in looking at that car, and after the job was done, you sat in it and you were like, "Yep, my world has changed." Would that be kind of the cool factor that got you going from there?
It was, and like I said, we started with the I think it was a Pioneer tape deck at the time, and after I convinced her that we should do this, I sat at the door of the installation shop and watched the technician put it in, and he was kind enough to invite me to stand outside the car and watch him what he did, and it became a something I want to do. It was from there that it just exploded. From there, changing speakers and experimenting. Back in the late '80s, early '90s, there wasn't the internet, and so you had to do a lot of reading and a lot of trial and error, and that's really what who made me who I am today.
And you've gone on to a long career primarily in car audio, but then you started to shift gears and found yourself in high end. Do you think the transition from the car audio world, which by the way is still dynamic even to this present day, has it helped you grow and understand more of the technologies that are out there?
It definitely has. I mean, the and I won't say advantage, but the difference between car audio and really the high end side is that in car we're dealing with the raw components. So, we're dealing with the raw speakers, and we're using the automotive or the vehicle as the enclosure. So we have to learn how to incorporate those drivers into each individual vehicle, and we have to understand things like crossovers and tuning points and focus points and time alignments and a lot of different things. And so when coming into the hi-fi world, companies like Focal or our engineers at Focal do a lot of these things that aren't necessarily done on the car side. So it definitely gave me a lot better understanding of what we're doing on the high end side, for a lot of our clients.
So we noticed as we started our conversation, Focal the brand has been making great loudspeakers since 1979. Of course, we mentioned the fact that they celebrated their 40th anniversary as a company, and while the first speakers were built under the name of JM Labs, for those who are into trivia and history, the renamed Focal has been designing and building terrific loudspeakers exclusively in Saint-Étienne, France. And I'm wondering if you can tell us about the early years and how the factory there has grown dramatically to create these iconic loudspeakers.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned, like I said, we did celebrate our 40th anniversary last year. And if you do the math back, that puts us back in 1979 with our founder creating Jam Labs, and our founder was Jacques Mahal. And again, things have obviously evolved. Where actually some of the first loudspeakers were built in the back corner of the family machine shop, and over the years, as that business developed, is that the Focal or Jam Lab factory actually engulfed the factory machine shop, the family machine shop. And so we actually sit on the same parcel of land of where that first speaker was developed, 40 plus years ago. With that is that, I've never found it yet, but there is rumors that there are still parts of that family machine shop on the facility, and we utilize that to actually build the machines that actually build the speakers.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. But then again, what did you use metal detectors to check those pieces out?
Yeah, they're really good at hiding things. So,
that, that's pretty cool. So one of the things that has me kind of testing the waters on our conversation is the subject of what a loudspeaker should sound like. And we sell a lot of brands, as everyone knows. And if you haven't already done so, visit musicdirect.com for more information on that. But one of the things that has me kind of in a daze is understanding the quality of a Focal loudspeaker. I will say from a personal level that the Focal loudspeakers are among my favorites of the speakers that we sell, and that's basically because of what we sort of coin an in-house sound. Okay, and I think one of the things that many of our Music Direct customers with older Focals who want to trade them in basically want to just say, I love my Focals then, I want newer Focals now, and they want to try other brands, but not our Focal clients too. Can you talk us through what is arguably the Focal house sound, and what is it about those loudspeakers that gets really kind of burned into everyone's heads and hearts of everyone?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question, and it's definitely a difficult question to answer. We kind of reference it as we call it the spirit of sound. It's the Focal DNA. The fact is that we have always, as a company, done things somewhat quite different, or if not almost backwards, to a lot of the other companies. Is that, I mean, as a company, we one of our mottos is combining art with technology, and so with that is that we have a full design team, and in a lot of cases where we'll design the cabinets maybe first, and then with that is that then the cabinet designs will then go to the engineers. And because that we actually build all of our own drive units, is that we actually build all of the drive units for their application. And so with that, again, we are able to specify exactly what we're requesting from that particular drive unit or cabinet. And when that is all said and done, is that we do have one person that actually voices almost every single product that we do, and that has been handed down over the years. That I guess that art, we'll call it, of being able to sound tuned so that something of tomorrow sounds like a product of yesteryear.
So it's kind of like a little bit of vertical integration in terms of manufacturing from the ground up because everything's done in the same factory, but with a final sort of
Correct.
bespoke finish to give it that sort of that polished sound, that uniqueness that has had everybody appreciating the Focal design for so long. Would that be right?
Exactly. And again, we feel that we would rather put a product back than have a compromise.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm looking back at the history of Focal, and they're one of only a handful of companies that focused on the use of a very unusual, very difficult metal in beryllium. And I think one of the things is that it's very delicate. I remember when you guys showed us a sample of it, and it was just like this really, really super thin wafer that if you just touched it enough, it had a unique flex. But it's the one of the key components in many of your speakers and specifically in your tweeters. What was the design philosophy or the design ethos of this driver, and why does this driver have to be treated with kid gloves in its manufacture?
Well, again, so back in the late '90s, again, Jacques, who is again our founders, was very um, you know very forward looking for new materials, and definitely in some cases rare materials, and beryllium happened to be one of them. Beryllium is actually number 4 on our periodical chart, and it's actually the first solid on the periodical chart, with hydrogen, helium, and lithium being 1, 2, and 3, and they're all gases. So the idea behind this is again, as we go down the periodical table, or go lower in numbers, is that it becomes lighter in mass. And again, something as as quick responding as a tweeter needs to be very light. And so again, we wanted something light, but with that is that we also want something that's very rigid. And again, beryllium really fits that build. It's the lightest metal known to man. It's extremely rigid. It's actually the other material that will scratch glass. Obviously, diamond being the most common known one. But the third factor of beryllium is that is it has very, very high dampening factors. And the ability of this is that it doesn't add its own flavor into the music. And again, that's what allows us to really fine tune, all of our beryllium tweeters that way. So it's the best of all worlds by using that product. The downside is it's very expensive, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree. It's not. It's probably one of the reasons why that for people who are interested in focal speakers, you're not only looking at the design of the loudspeaker, which by the way is they're all gorgeous. They're beautiful to look at, but
Right.
all the material workmanship, utilizing the vertical integration concepts that we talked about earlier, results in a speaker that is probably not going to be for everyone. But I think when you look at the grand scheme of things, once it's matched with a terrific piece of equipment, the sound quality is unbeatable in that regard. And the beryllium is definitely that. Another thing that we should talk about is in the newer designs in the speakers, you recently started exploring the concept of using something as unique as flax as a material to shape the now iconic driver designs that dot the Focal landscape. But there's also concepts of the quote unquote W sandwich, which is something I learned early on in the training of our product line that we've been carrying for some time. I'm wondering if you can tell us about those materials that have been chosen for design in the Sopra, the Aria or Kanta, which we carry, very heavily and very proudly. Those are great speakers, but how there's a lot going on there to keep those suckers stiff, especially with a material like flax.
Right. So, and as we kind of touched a little bit on the beryllium side, is that um, everything that we do is based on what we call an MRD ratio, and that's the mass, rigidity, and damping. And with that is again, as you mentioned early on, is that we started roughly about close to 30 years ago, actually, where Jacques realized that to achieve that mass rigidity and dampening ratio is that you couldn't do that with a monolithic material, is that you always had to have at least two different materials to create that. And so we'll start with our W cone as example. We take we take a material called Rosel, which is actually a very light, rigid foam that is comprised roughly about 85% of air. And we actually literally sandwich that between glass fibers. And with that is that by us changing the thickness of the Rosel foam, we can adjust dampening, and then adjusting the layers of glass that we use top and bottom is that we can adjust rigidity. And by adjusting those two parameters is that we can control mass. And so that's how we really allows us to custom tailor our drivers for each individual application. So now when you mentioned flax, flax is being one of our most popular cone technologies. It actually has kind of a wood grain look to it, which has been very unique. But more importantly is that flax is, again, it's an organic material again, we use that in sandwich cone technology. So if you're not familiar with, or if you're thinking flax is exactly what it is, well, it is. It's actually a byproduct of the flaxseed. So we use the stem and weave that into linen, and then again sandwich that between glass layers.
I have to say that when I first got the sampling of the flax when you showed it to us last year, I was like, this must be really intense to weave. So when you guys were coming up with the formation with it, what did it require a special kind of like stitching to get to the kind of like that wood grain look that you saw in the designs?
Again, the idea was it to orientate it all in a certain pattern. Again, obviously, I can't give you all of our trade secrets, unfortunately, but
Would you like $100? Can I give you $100?
uh, we may have to talk off air. So,
but still, just looking at that speaker and listening to its design, two things came out of the box when I was listening to it. Number one, fullness of sound, great air. Again, the beryllium technology plays a very vital role, but the extension of the bottom end, the mid range clarity, that in-house sound was more transformative to me because of the use of that. Although the other materials, including the glass fiber that you talked about earlier, certainly helps to keep the rigidity. And here's a little quick tech talk since we're a little off topic here. I've always remembered that loudspeakers have this pistonic reaction. However, because of paper or other materials, it has a tendency to sort of do this kind of obvious sort of rowing kind of effect. And as a result, it's not as full range as I'd like it to be. Your speakers are much stiffer. Is that correct?
Oh, considerably. We can be, as an example, I mean, with flax, we can be upwards of 10 to 15 times more rigid than a paper cone. And when we're talking our top technology with the W cone, is that we're closer to 100 times the rigidity.
So, with regard to the rest of the speaker, cabinet design, we said earlier how much I was absolutely just glowing with a lot of the sculpted curvatures of the front baffles and many of the predecessor loudspeakers, including the Electra series and whatnot from days gone by when we first started carrying the line. This is, of course, of particular importance to the folks over at Focal and for you guys. And even now, the Chorus series looks anything other than entry level. It's a great budget loudspeaker that happens to look great in just about in any room. Can you tell us how industrial design plays a role in creating the loudspeakers? We're no longer in the world of boxy cabinets with many of our manufacturers, but Focal always maintains a forward-thinking trend with sculpted designer speaker lines and great cabinet finishes, the use of exotic woods and whatnot. What makes that so special in a Focal design?
Um, as I mentioned earlier, again, one of our mandates was always to merge art with technology. It's wonderful to have a cabinet that sounds amazing, but we always do have to cope with aesthetics within the home. I mean, this is where you reside, and especially these days, a lot. And we wanted something that's aesthetically appealing. So with that is that we've taken and did very, in some cases, very bold colors. In our Utopia line, we've incorporated a lot of automotive colors, I guess. With the ash gray and the British racing green. And we can custom tailor any of those colors to fit your fancy as in that series. But we've also hidden some interesting features. So in our speakers like Cora, Canta, Sopra, Utopia, is that we've actually built in time alignment right into the cabinets, and that's built right into the shapes themselves. And so it's not just a square block sitting on our floor. It's got some art to it. It's got technology with time alignments, and honestly, they're extremely gorgeous.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. They, for fans of a modernist kind of look, or somebody wanting something a bit more contemporary to go against the grain of what should go in a home, there's no question in my mind that the loudspeaker design of Focal is way out front in terms of designer aesthetic. Of course, as with any emerging company like yours, or in this case, 4+ decades of a company like yours, um, there are always new technologies that are being embraced. And with the recent rise in personal audio products, and namely headphone category stuff, Focal surprised the daylights out of me when they started to introduce a line of headphones. I use the Listen headphones myself on a personal level, but I also use the in-ear style headphones. But then there was the Utopia line of headphones, and one look at them and the beautiful sculpted design of it, you thought, okay, they got their A game on design wise, but how does it really sound? So when I had a chance to actually listen to those at a number of events, including can jams and whatnot, as well as our own independent listening and testing, the first thing that went through my mind was, oh boy, there's a game changer. Because of all the headphones that we've supported over the years, none have had this kind of specialty openness, this specialty kind of bottom end extension, this realism, and one of my big pet peeves is ear fatigue. So comfort is an extraordinary necessity for me because I've got these unique shapes in my ears and how they're slightly off off center, so you have to really use the yoke to its advantage. And I have to say that on listening to those headphones, I was just absolutely flabbergasted on the technology that was going on there. I'm wondering if you could delve into that and why they do what they do with the almost near precision of your loudspeakers.
Well, I mean, I mean, there's so many talking points within that. We'll start with again, no little detail was overlooked. I mean, we've got over 100 parts within the headband itself, as an example, and again, that allowed us to give similar listening, basically listening effects to roughly 95% of the human race. And again, because we're all built differently and so on like that, so we built a lot of features that allow us to contour to each individual person. Um, but what's probably the most unique is the fact is that we were the first company to introduce a new speaker technology into the headphone category in nearly 30 years. And with that is that we started building headphones back in 2012 was when we got into our headphone category, and we introduced between 2012 and 2014 we introduced three models, and as you mentioned in 2016 we introduced our new high-end headphones. And what we did is that we actually really looked back at our history, of almost 40 years of building loudspeakers, and we thought, instead of using the current technology and trying to improve upon it, why don't we just create a new technology? So we built the actual first near field open back full range speaker for a headphone, and again with that came its obviously its own challenges, and but that's also what has differentiated us against a lot of our competitors. And again, we use this technology in all of our high end headphones. The not only the Utopia, but the Focal Clear Professional, and the new closed back Stelia, which we launched last year.
Did you just give away a new product introduction?
I did not. No, not today.
Oh, what's the point of this program? No. Yeah, the Stelio. When I first heard it at Axpona, I was like, ooh, this is more like it. A different kind of vibe in terms of performance. And I think one of the reasons I think it did so well for us in terms of the growth of the sales category for that was that, unlike other headphone brands that have been out there, the one thing that had me jonesing for the Stelio was the fact that, again, besides comfort and besides the really killer look, was that it suited my musical needs. And for those of us who have different ranges of wanting to listen to things, my test range is everywhere from single instrument like a piano or natural guitar to all the way up to EDM, where I needed something that was able to give me just the right amount of bass management, while at the same time giving us that even acoustical feel, almost to the what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of like you're listening to it on a full three-dimensional spectrum. So without any kind of like goofy equalization that's going on headphone amps and the like. And I think that was really kind of a great shape. If I could infuse your own personal thoughts on that as you look at the headphone category, when you had a chance to test those out, and what were your innermost thoughts on that?
I mean, when I was first able to get my hands on, first and foremost, the Utopia product, I was astounded of what they did. It was a headphone that's staged, which is something that I had never experienced before, and the fullness and the richness of them. Again, the detail was absolutely outstanding. But again, we have different headphones for different. I personally actually have every single headphone because again, I have a very wide range of music, almost identical to yours. And so there's days where I will do very critical listening with my Utopia. I'll go to my Clear as an example for maybe my EDM options. But then again, as I mentioned, I travel a lot, especially for work, and where I'll take my Stelia with me for that, to really ultimately give me that personal audio and still maintain a very high quality of output.
That's wonderful. Believe it or not, we're almost done here. This is This is strange. We've covered so much territory in such a short time. I'm wondering, um, you know, in every line of loudspeaker, there's always something special that stands out. I remember when we got our first set of 1028s, and I was just just thrilled how it sounded in our listening room. And ultimately, when I had to actually deliver to a few customers' homes in the Chicagoland area where we're based, everybody was just like, "Thank you, you set it up perfectly." It just really covered about that. Of the speakers, is there a current model that really has you all jonesed when you think about it, and that you try to recommend to your friends and others in this game?
That's again, that's a really tough question, Bez. Um, and again, as like my headphone side is that I gained so many different variations of music. I've been very blessed to have the opportunity to spend a fair amount of time with our grand Utopia EM Evos. And they are absolutely astounding. I mean, it's that type of speaker that makes the hair stand up on your arms. It makes you, it almost makes you weep at times. It is such an emotional speaker, and once you've experienced it, it is so hard to not ever experience that again. But that being said, is that I do have other favorites. Last year we introduced our Spectral 40th, which was a very limited edition anniversary piece. Because of my ties with car, it has a lot of energy and a lot of output, and so I really enjoy that unit. But if I had to average it all down to one, I would probably say my favorite rig to date is the Canta. It's got a lot of wonderful detail with the beryllium tweeter. The flax drivers are extremely warm, but yet still very powerful output drivers. And it's very new age looking as well. And honestly, it's also extremely easy to set up within a room. It's probably by far our most forgiving speaker
Oh,
that we have.
yeah, no, you know what? I'm going to give you thumbs up on the Kanto relationship in terms of environmental use in in typical living spaces, because we don't have the perfect 12 by 12 room, or the room where we actually have enough of an 8 foot distance between each other in that in that imaginary triangle to get everything dialed in. But I'll also chime in with my plus on that when you say in terms of its capacity to play a wide variety of music. One of the things that I always love to do is, as soon as you guys leave the room and the speakers are still there, and it's towards the end of the day and before I have to go home, I devote an extra hour so that I could sit there and listen to these speakers and really speak my mind internally about them. And if there was one thing I had to say about the cantas, is that it is incredibly invisible to us. It has that wonderful physical energy so that drums and other percussive instruments really start coming at you. But above all, it's also one of the more critically accurate loudspeakers in its price point. Again, because of the technologies that we've discussed earlier in the program. But it also is a non-fatiguing loudspeaker. There are some speakers that we've listened to over the years. We're proud to carry all of the ones that we support, and nobody gets a bit of a slap. But at the same token, the Focals, as we discussed, with its unique house sound and its technology, you just can't really pin it until you've listened to it again and again and again, and you're really finding yourself locked and loaded into it. So I'm with you 100% on that. Chris, I can't believe it. We've used up our time. This is
Wow,
this is
it's flown by.
strange. Well, other than to say thank you, any last thoughts? Things to share with us. Any? I know you've got probably things you can't say, but can you give us any kind of clue what we could possibly see towards the end of the
Well,
year?
like I said, we're always a very forward-thinking company. Over the years, we always seem to release something new within every year or every 2 years. I mean, we're very diverse. Whether it's the floor loudspeakers, the car audio, the pro audio, the headphones, our custom integration stuff. So we're always working on things. And last year we introduced 11 new products into the market. This year we were on slate to roughly launch roughly about the same amount of quantity of products for 2020. Unfortunately, with this hiccup in the world, it's pushed us back a little bit. But we have many great things coming down the pipe, and some things that I personally I'm truly, truly, truly excited about, and I can't wait to share with all of you.
Well, that's awesome. Chris Shaw from Focal Name North America, thank you so much for your time. I hope you do well. Stay safe. Don't do anything goofy. And I'm sure we'll see each other in person in the near future with or without a mask. But either way, thanks so much for your time.